Chris Cuomo here, in case you didn't know. Welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left come to be reasonable. Epstein is not going away. And I have for you tonight the best answers about what else is there for you to know. But I want to talk a little bit about why this fiasco, why we are where we are, and why it bothers me personally, okay? Now, again, Epstein isn't going away. Not because there is a client list. I've told you many times, I have solid sourcing on Epstein. It was never a big coverage thing for me, but this question was a nagging one. And this notion of Epstein having a blackmail file or files, and that he has a roster of powerful men who exploited girls from jump. And everybody around the case knows that these are false offerings. These are promises that are fake. And the people saying they would deliver them have been deceiving you, in most cases, for profit, right? And that takes us all the way up to the top two men at the FBI. I've had more than one person say, you know, look, take it easy on Cash, take it easy on Bongino. You know, when they said what they said about Epstein, you know, they were entertainers. You know, they were entertaining on the podcast. Really? Do people really listen to Rogan or Alex Jones or Tucker Carlson or Megyn Kelly or any of these flamethrowers on the right just for entertainment purposes? I don't think so, judging by how their audiences echo many of their empty arguments and match their outrage in my comments. But these people they know they're shining you on. Don't take my word, take their word. Take the word of Tucker Carlson's own Fox News lawyers who argued during the Karen McDougal lawsuit. Look it up. His own lawyer argued no reasonable viewer would conclude that Carlson was conveying the actual facts of the story. The judge wrote in his decision, as defendant notes, Mr. Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discusses and instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. Or, as Alex Jones' lawyer put it succinctly in a different matter, Alex Jones is playing a character. He is a performance artist. Okay? This is what they say about themselves when their ass is on the line, just like with Bongino, Bondi, and Kash Patel. Now their ass is on the line, so they have to tell the truth, but they still aren't. Forget about the fact that many MAGA media are posers, that they lied to you about Epstein, whatever his name is, Epstein. But that's not the only reason it's going away. The reason it's not going away is not because of the facts. It's the symbolism. It's what this story means to many of the MAGA folk. Now, the left, I don't think they really care about this. They're just enjoying the negativity among the MAGA ranks as if that's good for their cause. Here's what leader Jeffries had to say today.
There are only two things that are possible here. Option one, Donald Trump, Pam Bondi, and the MAGA extremists intentionally lied to the American people for years. Option two, they're engaging in a cover-up.
Now, look, he knows the answer, okay? And it's actually option three. Trump has people around. Trump played with this conspiracy, there's no question. But he picked people around him who do a lot more than he has when it comes to Epstein, okay? But Jeffries knows that it's not that it's simply a cover-up. He knows that there are things that are not in their control that many of you would want to know about. And you also got to ask Jeffries, if he thinks it's so important that he wants to talk about it, why hasn't he made a fuss about getting it out? Because he could have told you the same things that they're not telling you. And I got to tell you, I don't really understand why they won't tell you what Alan Dershowitz is going to tell you tonight. Maybe they do really become a uniparty when it comes to protecting the people who fund their campaigns and what class of people they look to protect instinctively. Let's go back to the right, because this is really, they own this. The Epstein files are a metaphor for many of the MAGA folk. The ultimate example of what the rich get away with, the two-tier justice system, the indulgence of the elite, and their immorality. That this is not a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. It's for those people. Trump campaigned as the antidote to drain the swamp, to expose the deep state. He spoke to it, and he picked as allies people who went a lot further than he did. And there is absolutely something they're not telling you, and I will prove that in a moment. But I think this moment has greater significance. This is proof that MAGA is bigger than Trump, and that the future of our politics, I don't know for how long, is going to be dueling, increasingly extreme exploitations of legitimate grievance from magnified minorities on the right and on the left. That's why we need the majority to weigh in. We got to think about more parties. We got to think about changing the system and allowing the many to stop being co-opted by the few. The interests of the majority should matter most. Now, many of you on the extreme right and left are upset when I refer to the president as a mascot of the MAGA movement. And others of you are just as sensitive when I call AOC or Bernie or the upstart in New York who wants to be mayor as mascots for their movements. I don't mean this as a pejorative. I'm not trying to criticize them. The president deserves the most credit on this score, by the way, because each and all of them have exercised political savvy that allowed them to grab on to legitimate grievance and develop a following for themselves by harnessing the pain and grievance that exists in this country. Affordability is a thing. Worry about the culture and whether it's still a Judeo-Christian ethic that motivates our cultural understandings is legit. The gap between rich and poor is legit. The inability to afford your dreams is legit. I don't mean to diminish any of that or any of them, but the movements are bigger than the people who are at the front of it, and that's what Epstein is showing you. It is not going away, even when Trump waves MAGA off. You saw his tweets, right? What's going on with my boys and in some cases gals? They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's doing a fantastic job. We're on one team, MAGA. And I don't like what's happening. Let's not waste time and energy on Jeffrey Epstein, somebody that nobody cares about. They care. You got this one wrong, Mr. President. Now, by the way, I don't think that Mr. President is wrong. I don't think Jeffrey Epstein really matters to you. And I don't think that what is really there is what it has been sold to you as. Proof of this mass deep state conspiracy cover-up. I don't believe that. But many of you do, and not just because people fed you false promises, but because you want a reckoning for those who seem to get away with everything. And now this administration is kind of looking like more of what you oppose, that they're covering for the powerful. Now, by the way, I don't believe that that's what this administration is doing. Certainly not to cover for Trump. Those pictures online of him with Epstein and the young girl and the hand, it's fake. I can't show you the picture, and I shouldn't show it to you because it's just going to keep the fakery going. He knew Epstein. He liked Epstein. He partied with Epstein. But he also knew that he was a creep, and he took some private action against him. And I've never seen proof that ties Trump to any of the ugly, disgusting, illegal, and lascivious behavior that Epstein loved. So I actually find Trump's position on Epstein to be pretty reasonable for him, and way back, not just now, but years ago. Listen.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world.
Now, I don't disagree with that. I know it will piss some people off. Why? Because you love, not you, but many of us love to traffic in the pain of the bold-faced names. It's great to see the rich and the powerful get stuck. Fair, unfair, right, wrong, who cares? They all have money, they have access, they'll be fine. I get it. But here's the problem for the president. He does not control MAGA when the counterbalance is one of the biggest targets of the movement, which is a reckoning that you don't get away with messing around with underage kids just because of who you know and what you own. And that's why you see other members of the right fringe trying to take advantage of this and now making Epstein a metaphor for their own agenda. What do you think? It's an accident that all of a sudden it's not just about give us the files, he was murdered, but that they're covering up for Epstein. Why? Because Epstein was a Mossad agent. Because Trump is in the pocket of AIPAC in Israel. Like all of a sudden, Epstein has new significance. Why? Because people are are able in social media to use it for their own agenda. Now, there is no proof of anything that Tucker Carlson or anyone else is saying about Epstein being a Mossad agent. None. But you know what a conspiracy is about. It's not about Tucker or anybody else proving to you that it's true. It's about them saying you can't prove it isn't true, which is like an impossible burden, which is why it doesn't exist in the administration of justice. The burden is on the prosecution. Only military justice works in reverse, where you have to prove you're innocent. It's almost impossible to do that. So this is going to continue until the president has Pam Bondi, or maybe him himself, but I get why he doesn't want to own this, and frankly, I think he's making the right call. But Patel, Bongino, Bondi, any of the people who made money and advantage off of this Epstein BS now has to come out and say, look, we don't have control of all the files, okay? It's not the government who's keeping this a secret, but there is a secret. And I don't know why none of them have told you this. I can't figure it out. Maybe Alan can help me figure it out, Alan Dershowitz. But I got to tell you, there is an issue. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.